All right, so welcome to the video tonight. I've got something I want to talk to you about. I'm going to try to keep this a reasonable amount of time. And I want to talk about people chasing rabbit holes and people chasing this or chasing that, and they're getting so caught up in that stuff, they're not focusing on the Bible, reading the Bible, praying like they're supposed to be. And I heard one thing said one time, and it said that they hope these people found Jesus at the end of their rabbit holes. And I was like, well, there's a lot of truth in that, because there's a lot of people chasing all these rabbit holes, and you know, a lot of them they want to call conspiracy theories. Well, a lot of the conspiracy theories have came true, so they're no longer a conspiracy theory. But you know, the left side of the aisle, the last so many years has really went unhinged, and they've been wanting you to do this and do this and all that stuff. And I've got a lot of people I know that that's had this, and they're no longer with us. So you definitely want to be careful about what you're sitting there getting fed by the news media. But a lot of the people on our side of the aisle has a problem with spreading the fear factor thing as well. Y'all need to store up food. Y'all need to go buy food. Y'all need to do this. Y'all need to do that. Y'all need to, buy this vitamin or buy this supplement. And I take supplements myself. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, you need to do this. You need to do that. And it's, I'm sponsored by this company, and I'm sponsored by this company, and I have to do this little commercial in my podcast, and I got to do this commercial. And it's like, can't we have a conversation here? Okay, so we make fun of the people that walk around like this, and with like this, with the rainbow shirt and the blue hair and all this kind of stuff. But there's just, I hate to say it, but there's a lot that's on our side and our circle here, in the Christian circle, that's gotten so wrapped up in this prepping and this rabbit hole chasing and trying to figure out what the Q board means and all this kind of stuff, and putting a little bit too much trust in Trump, not trusting God, and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? It's gotten out of hand. And it really got out of hand in the 2020, 2021 time frame, when and all these so-called prophets who so-called, they get this word from the Lord, and they saw, God told me to tell you, and all this kind of stuff. And like this one woman basically all but said Trump was going to be back in office, and the election was going to be overturned in 2020, and okay, we all know it was fraud. We all know what the outcome should have been. Even a lot of people that's on the other side has had to wake up and realize that there was a lot of FRAUD, I spelled that wrong, fraud took place 2020. I always put my little hashtag, fraud 2020. We know. And there's a lot more coming out about it now. Every year and month, there's something else that surfaces how much fraud that took place. But these people got views, clicks, likes, and shares off of talking about all that stuff. And then that's God told me to tell you, this prophet nonsense. And you got to be real careful about that. I can't sit here and say that there's not modern day prophets. I believe if they are any, they're far and few between. And if what they're saying is not leading you back to this right here, now I 100% believe that someone can get a word from God, whether it be a preacher or an individual, and they need to tell somebody something, a word of warning or something like that, but it better lead back to this right here. If it don't line up with the Bible and what the Bible says, it's no good. So, if God told you to tell me I need to invest in, football stock in the stock market, or I need to invest in Toyota stock, or I need to buy gold and silver and all this kind of stuff, and God told me to say, I don't know about all that. There was a guy on YouTube I started listening to one time. I got caught up in listening to some of his nonsense, and he had one thing that came pretty close to coming true, which was about our president's almost death, even down to how he got hit in the ear and all that stuff. And then it's like after that, it was every day. God told me to tell you, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. But we might pray it away. Whoa, wait a minute. If you getting a word from the Lord that something's going to happen, but the cop-out is, we can pray against it and it not happen. Well, all those Old Testament prophets that got all those words from the Lord that we still read about in the good book today, by gosh, it all happened. Good and bad. And unfortunately, a lot of it was bad, especially for Israel. So let's just be careful about getting caught up in those modern day prophets. And God told me to tell you and all this kind of stuff. I used to listen to several of them, especially right after the election. I'm like, boy, they build you up. It's all going to work out, and all this kind of stuff. No, it didn't. It never did work out, really. It did last year. But just because we got our way, if people don't turn back to the Lord, we might make a few extra dollars, but half the country, or more than half the country, citizens are still on their way to hell. So, the best thing I've seen the last couple of weeks after this bad thing happened a few weeks ago was a lot of people have turned back to the Lord, and a lot of people got saved, a lot of people got rededicated and got back in church. So, I mean, that's a great thing. So hopefully that trend continues. But even that, that whole scenario with Charlie, and you got people chasing rabbit holes. You got people trying to figure out, it's just a big old stunt, and he's still alive. So you got one extreme or the other. You got these unhinged people celebrating it. Then you got these people way on the far tinfoil hat side that's, it's just a this or that or the other. I don't know, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know the 100% truth about any of that stuff, honestly. But just be careful and don't get too caught up in chasing rabbit holes. It takes too much time. And again, if you're trying to figure out, all this stuff, if you dig deep enough, you're going to find it. And I had a friend I used to go to church with. She died of breast cancer. Great lady, great Christian woman. She was one of the ones that turned me on to a lot of this stuff. And we actually had a little Facebook group. It's called The Praying Patriot. But she got so caught up in a lot of that stuff. And it just, a lot of the stuff, it wasn't even what the Q board said. It was a lot of the other. It was just stuff people were conspiring, and she just got way caught up in that. And I remember she had done a deep dive online and found a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of stuff one video she posted that was just, you couldn't see anything, but you could hear. And what I heard going on in that video that some big wheel had posted online, it was, who knows where it was taking place, but it was not good. And there was a lot of screaming going on. You could tell there was a lot of kids involved, and a lot of that trafficking, kidnapping, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff's real. But if you get too caught up in all that stuff, it'll take the joy right out of you, and you got to be careful. So, with that said, be careful. Don't go chasing too many rabbit holes. Every situation that comes about, everything that happens, good, bad, or ugly, I hate to say it, but a lot of the ones on our side of the aisle, they're the ones that's chasing all these rabbit holes. Now, again, don't just take anything the media says for truth. We found that out 5 years ago. Like, right now, the ones on the left, anything they say is bad for you that we've always known is bad for you, kind of like Tylenol and all these pills. Now they're just popping them left and right, making videos on YouTube. I mean, that's pretty out there, you know. So don't just, I've noticed a trend over the years. If the media, no matter what channel, starts drumming something up, it's not going to be anything. I called that in 2020, early on. Even some of the people that I was good friends with were a lot more scared than I was. I wasn't the least bit scared. I've never to this day took one test or took one precaution for what they tried to say. And, you know, I do restoration for a living, so I know a little bit about masks, okay? If you wear one of those little, whatever they said to wear, you'll die or pass out there in the paint booth. But yet, it's supposed to protect you from what they said. I mean, how big of a lie? And people bought it hook, line, and sinker. So let's just, for argument's sake, say, if you're walking in somewhere and somebody did have some super contagious something, you better have on something like I wear in the paint shop. Big respirator, something that's actually going to do something and filter something. Maybe even a paint suit, kind of vinyl, stuff don't really stick to it. But no, and people bought that stuff hook, line, and sinker. But again, be careful, because there's people over here spewing a lot of that. Buy up food. God told me to tell you, we chase this rabbit hole, and this is going to happen on this day, and this means this, and this means this. Just get into this right here. And I promise you, if you get into that right there, you'll stop worrying about a lot of that mess over here. So, anyway, hope this was maybe a little bit of a lesson to some of you. We've all been caught up in that stuff, myself included. I thank the Lord that I'm not anymore, though. And not wrapped up in a lot of the things I used to be wrapped up in. I've taken a step back from college football. I'm not wrapped up in that anymore, getting all stressed out about, this, that, and the other. So, nothing wrong with enjoying sports. I bowl in a league every Thursday night, and by gosh, I take it seriously. We won a championship last year. We want to go back to back. But I don't spend every waking moment thinking about it, stressing out about it. Get in this book right here. All the answers are right here that you need to know. So anyway, with that being said, thanks for watching. We will see you next time. 1 Corinthians 15, 1-4, how to be saved. Christ died for your sins according to the scriptures, rose again on the third day, shed his blood. Don't ever forget that.